This is Providence Television International, the game changer.
Welcome to the program, Issues in the News on Providence Television International. I am Ugbebo Ikekwa. We have quite a trendy issue to discuss today, but then before we delve into the topic, I'm very, very happy to introduce to you my guest who will be discussing this very, very trending issue. He is the Chief Executive Officer, Providence Television International, Dr. Emmanuel Egariba. You're welcome to the studio.
Issues in the news, yes. There are so many, but we're picking on one particular, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But I'm happy to see you. I'm happy to be back on Issues in the News. I want to thank Professor Peter Eriki. He's in the United States. He was here at the University of Benin as the Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences. He's back in the U.S. after his retirement, and he told us a lot of beautiful things. He loves our programs, and he says the international viewership is even happier, and we are delighted about that. So, Prof, we thank you very much. Please keep telling others that yes, we are truly international and we are the game changer.
And yes, being the game changer, we are going to analyze this trendy issue in a way that no other station worldwide have been able to analyze it. June 12th, first of all, let us start, has been a date for Nigerians that every Nigerian has come to know the ripple effects of June 12th. Today, it is our Democracy Day, but something took place on June 12th, Thursday, June 12th, 2025, that has sent ripples around the world. An Indian aircraft crashed, killing 241 passengers on board. It is something that has been able to shake the world to its foundation, the aviation world to its foundation, as so many facts we will be bringing out in this interactive session. So once again, you are welcome to the studio.
Well, thank you very much. June 12th, yes. While Nigeria was in the euphoria of June 12th, India was in grief. Yeah. The whole world was in grief because 241 lives were lost. Many of them burnt beyond recognition.
Exactly.
Okay. And more so, we had it at a time when the whole world was probably going to forget about the conflict between Israel and Iran.
Yes.
Now that's coming up. We'll discuss that in other programs on this station. Yeah. But right now, this is on the table. Right. Why are we talking about this? We are talking about this because only one person survived. I have been following the dynamics of aviation and space travels in the last 40 years. I have never seen anything such as this, that a burning fuselage, somebody will walk out from it without aid. I mean, the young man, his name is Kumar Ramesh, the only survivor. Is an English guy, but he has Indian origin. He walked out of the fuselage. That is where people call it miracle, but we can call it something else. But look at the ball. Look at the fireball. The plane went in contact with a brick wall. It broke into the wall. And what was that? A medical college hostel. The plane, as a matter of fact, that's the plane on the left there. It flew for only 34 seconds. In other words, there was no lift. It didn't experience any lift. It was a narrow angle, and suddenly, even though there was an SOS, nobody could change the course of that flight. And it went straight into that building, killing virtually everybody on board except one person. Right. There was a ball of fire. A ball of fire. You know what it is? That's it there. There was a ball of fire. And that means that nobody could have hoped for any survival. But this young man came out. He even walked away from the aircraft. Yeah, people were looking at him as if he was a ghost. He walked away from the aircraft, and there it is. Yes, we can continue from there.
Well, like I said, this issue that you just raised there are some schools of thought who have come out to say that that's no miracle at all. If you remember, some other individuals have this basic thought that India is the center for occultic practice, and so that there must be some occultic tenets to it. Because in one of the interviews, it's been an interview time and time over, he's in a very stable condition as we speak. He's in a very, very stable condition. He grants interviews and all that. And in one of the interviews, it was like that he saw the hostesses and some other passengers die. And so there's this question that arises. In your own point of view, is this actually a miracle, or you think of it as an occultic occurrence?
Well, it's hard to tell. Actually, it's even debatable. But you cannot limit the power of the Almighty God, for instance. I mean, that is obvious. Because there are some crashes, 2-3 people will survive. But what amazes me in this, it was the lone survival of the lot. However, yes, I mean, you cannot even be right by saying that India is known essentially for occultic practices. That is neither here nor there. But let's face it, there was a disaster, and it was obvious for us to acknowledge the fact that nobody could have been a survivor. Nobody. From, as I said earlier, the fuselage, it was at the point of contact. You see, in aviation, for instance, the aircraft could go down, and then suddenly you wait for a few minutes before you now begin to see the flames and all sort of things. But right now, in that scenario, it burst into a heavy ball of fire.
Yeah.
The whole of the fuselage was consumed in the inferno. It was consumed, absolutely. Therefore, nobody could have expected that anybody would survive that. But this guy just walked out. That's the thing that amazed everybody.
Yes.
He walked out unaided. He was even walking along. Yes, unaided. Nobody, the rescuers did not come to his aid. He was just walking away. So there's a school of thought that might be right. I mean, as far as that is concerned.
Okay.
Was he even a ghost? Some people have even argued that he probably was a ghost or something. I mean, we don't believe in that. But you see, God is still working out his miracles. But some people are even saying that the same God, yes, could have saved many more people. Yes, but perhaps he has a pact, with a special pact with the Almighty. And then his mission on earth was not completed yet. So God saved his life for a certain purpose.
That may bring us to favoritism if we're talking as regards the issues of God.
Not favoritism. No,
Yeah.
not favoritism. I'm saying that God, you cannot question God, by the way. Is omniscient.
Yeah.
Yes, he's omnipresent, he's omnipotent. Omniscient meaning is all wise. So he alone knows the reason why he does certain things.
Exactly.
But this guy, we are not even sure now if he's a Christian or a Buddhist.
That's another thing.
Yes, we are not sure what his faith is, but we do know that yes, he's an Indian by origin, but he's also a British national. Okay, and there were as many, over 100 really, of Indians who were on that flight.
Yes.
Yes.
I think there were 165.
About that, yes. We can get the graphics if we do that. But yes, that's the plane. That's the plane that we are talking about. Fresh.
Yes.
Okay? It's one of the planes that Boeing is particularly proud of. Yes. And it's a wide-body plane. This particular plane that crashed came into existence only about 11 years ago. Okay? 11 years ago. And it has done a lot of hours.
Yes.
Over 8,000. Off and landing. Over 8,000 hours. Okay. Or 8,000 flights off and on. Okay, so, but we know also that it's a very durable aircraft. Very sophisticated aircraft. But unfortunately, we are beginning to hear now that the battery failed.
Exactly.
In other words, there could have been a technical operation problem. And there could have been a human error problem. Investigations are still on, so we are waiting for the results of those investigations. But one thing is certain, that it may be an accident that could not have happened.
Yes.
Yeah, it probably could have just been one major accident that could not have happened.
Yes, exactly.
Because this is one of the worst in aviation history around the world.
It is.
Yes.
Boeing is coming out to say that the Dreamliner has crashed.
This is the first.
This is the first
And Boeing, they have a track record of competence.
Exactly.
I mean, they are a major manufacturer of aircraft around the world. Okay, so, but for this, I hope it doesn't dent their image. But, Yes, they've come out to say that this is the first time. The Dreamliner is one of their best.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, this thing carries about 250 passengers. And it was traveling from a point in India to Gatwick Airport in London. That's a distance.
A distance.
That was going to take about 10 hours. In other words, when the aircraft was going from India, it was loaded with fuel. Yes. And those in aviation will tell you that takeoff is particularly sensitive. Sometimes it could be so precarious. It can be very sensitive because all the engines must be working. It's like your gear one in the car. Exactly. When you put your car on gear one, you can hear the sound. It goes on with full force.
Yes.
Okay. It's the same with the aircraft. It comes, all the engines must be working for takeoff. Okay. Now it is when you get in the right altitude that you can switch off one because you're now cruising. All right. But this guy did not experience lift
at all.
It did not experience lift. If you experience lift, then maybe you can understand that one or two things may have happened, down the line, and he will call for Mayday, and all that. But there was no time for this. 34 seconds, and the aircraft came down. It jumped out of the sky, and it hit a brick wall. So there was no room for any chance of survival, really, technically speaking.
Based on human angle now, that it could be a fault, it could have been based on negligence. Because about 3 months before this accident, that same plane had battery issues.
Well, in that case, you will blame the operatives. You blame the operatives. You blame the management of the airline.
It was grounded. It was grounded
for battery issues. And then they raised it up again. And it's a brilliant aircraft, for God's sake. Some aircraft are in service for 30 years. And they are still doing very well. That is only came into existence only about 11 years ago. So you say that is a new aircraft because aircraft all over the world, they have endurance. Some 30, some 40 years. Just like sea-going vessels. Some vessels out in the sea, they will be there for 50 years. The same with aircraft. Until they get to a certain point where you have to lay them off. But this is a brand new aircraft. Well, quote and unquote. It's just 11 years. But I will say that... yes, I like the response of the rescue operators. They came very quickly. I'm sure that if it has not burst out that much, the flame had not been so as terrible as we've seen, they would have been able to rescue some people. But they were there on time. Unfortunately, the scenario was all in inferno. So there was no way anybody could have survived it. So, but the Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, was there on time.
Exactly.
To console the young man, that's the picture out there, and to tell him that yes, the whole country is happy with you, we rejoice at your survival, okay? And a lot of world leaders have been sending messages of condolence. We've heard from Putin, from Macron, from the British Prime Minister, and many other countries around the world to tell India that yes, we're with you in grief, and we share in your pains, and look at the victims' relations there. They are really in pain. You can see the faces. The faces tell you a lot about anguish, and misery. That's another set of people. So it was a national calamity, international calamity, really.
Well, still talking about the individual who survived. He survived. He wasn't actually allocated seat A11.
Yes, I understand. He moved to 11.
He moved to.
That's what is making people like you think that he must have some magic wand.
I'm not.
And he moved to a place that was particularly potentially dangerous.
Exactly.
He moved there.
Dangerous.
What was he going to prove? Again, from my own position, maybe I can venture this. He may have had a premonition.
Okay,
it's possible, spiritually speaking now. He may have had a premonition of what was going to happen. No, if this will happen, let me change from that seat and come to a place that is be more safer. But the place he moved to was very close to the engine.
Exactly.
It was potentially very dangerous. And that's the place he moved to. To prove that yes, God can be at work.
Yeah, we agree. We agree, God can be at work, but you know why the conspiracy theorists keep saying what they are saying? Because there have been such a tendencies. There are things that happen in the world that you can't explain.
That's true.
That you just can't explain. And even when you want to think about the miraculous, other questions spring up. It becomes a hydra-headed thing. Because okay, God saved him. Why did he save others? And then he saw, sometimes because some of his statements are quite indicting. Yes, he said he saw the other passengers die. That brings us to.
No, but that's true. I mean, obviously, even in a car crash.
Yes.
In a car crash, I mean, a passenger could be in a dying state, for example, and he will see others who are just giving up. All right. And we have had instances. I don't want to either believe or disbelieve this. I mean, we've heard that that a crash will happen on the road. I'm not talking about an aircraft now. On the road, and suddenly you see the driver coming from a distance.
Yeah, we've heard. Yes, we've heard those stories.
Well, I've not seen it happen, but people have said it. Even survivors of road crashes,
yes,
they will tell you that in their pain and agony, they will suddenly see the driver coming up from a distance. Maybe he disappeared at the point of contact.
Yes,
yes. You can trust African traditional.
Exactly. I wanted to bring that African traditional
religion. Nothing is impossible.
Nothing is impossible.
Yes,
that could still be related to Indian traditional religion. That nothing is impossible. We will now delve to the technical issues. Boeing for 747, over time they've been having issues. There have been crashes. There are more crashes now. Is it that they are losing their technical expertise?
The aircraft could be good, but what of the operators?
Exactly.
I mean, because I have had some experience. Let me tell you this. When I was in Government House, I keep remembering this, and it scares me to the bone. We were traveling, they call this aircraft Sky Servant. It's operated by the Nigerian Air Force.
Okay.
We were there about 12. The governor was there, the deputy governor, the secretary of government, I mean, the whole apparatus of government. And we're moving from Benin to Abuja.
Okay.
About 10 minutes, I mean, you could see the airport already. About 10 minutes, we heard the pilot scream, Jesus! Now, what happened? Error from the control tower. Another plane was taken off, and the distance was just small, wing to wing. Yes, wing to wing. And he just screamed, and he quickly maneuvered. We landed, by the way, and everybody was happy. Okay? Everybody was happy, and we're full of joy, because it could have been a mid-air collision, and anything could just have happened. That's one. Number two, we're traveling. The same period when I was in Government House, we're traveling from Benin to Jos for a convention in Jos. Again, but this was a 727, a very big aircraft.
Okay.
I don't know how we managed. The Benin airport is not built for that. But this guy came, a white pilot. He came and he flew the thing down. We went in, we boarded. 15 minutes to Jos. 15. You can see what happens to some operators. They would know that there are technical issues. They will still use the aircraft. What happened? About 15, 20 minutes to Jos. The door burst open. Mid-air. And the pilot was clever enough. He quickly went down. So that we won't experience depressurization. He quickly went down. It was a bang. As if it was a bomb. And I remember the late Yari, who was sitting very close to the wing. He screamed. He said, "Oh, I didn't tell my wife that I was on this trip." But guess what happened? The air hostess, oh, may God bless that young lady, she stretched out her hand mid-air, probably about 6,000-7,000 up above the earth. Mid-air, she stretched out her hand to pull the door back into hatch. And it was just miraculous. Yes. And she was smiling, well trained. She was smiling and said, "So please, gentlemen, this happens once in a while." I said, once in a while? It shouldn't happen at all. That's what I was telling myself. Why should it be once in a while? It should not happen at all. But she calmed everybody down. Even though she was scared herself. We landed at Jos Airport very safely. But those are things that the operators, because you couldn't blame that on the manufacturers. It was a Boeing 727, big aircraft. You won't blame that on the manufacturers. It is the operators. They could have fixed it. Suppose something happened and the door refused to close up. What will have happened? Okay? And you were carrying the governor, the deputy, everybody. We're going for a convention. Yes, in Jos. I remember very clearly. And God just performed this miracle.
Still talking about the operators. Will this still boil down to the, how do I put it down, the state of mind of the pilot?
Oh, yes, well, that's true. The state of mind is very important. They are trained psychologically to handle very terrible situations. Okay? And again, I'll give you an instance. Do you remember the C-130?
Yes.
That went into the mud.
Yes.
When Babangida was here. It was carrying a group of military officers. Now, the pilot was experienced. He knew. He was at Ejigbo. He wanted to land in Lagos, just a few minutes to Lagos. And he experienced something that most pilots do not want to experience. He sent an SOS. Please, this aircraft is no longer light. It's getting heavy. C-130 is a fairly big aircraft. He said that it was getting heavy. And you can tell. If you're an experienced passenger, you will know when an aircraft is heavy. The pilot noticed it. Himself and the co-pilot, they noticed it, that it was getting heavy. And there was no way you could carry that kind of situation to the airport. To crash. He was looking for a place around. He was looking for a place. And you know, that aircraft C-130 is what they call a STOL. S-T-O-L.
Yes.
STOL is an acronym for short takeoff and landing.
Yes.
Yes. It could land easily on a football field, for instance. It's meant for that because it's a military aircraft. He was looking for a place to land. He saw a field, football field. There were young boys who were playing, maybe about 20, 30 of them. He wanted to land it there, but he knew that he would kill those young innocent people. He refused. Psychologically, he knew, and he was empathic. That's a great pilot. He could easily have landed it there, straight, and a lot of lives would have been saved on board. But said, no, let me land in a swamp. He went down straight into the swamp. But what happened? There was no rescue mission. Those officers just perished. There was no. If it was an advanced country, they would come with a very heavy helicopter to lift it up from the mud. But nothing happened, and they all perished. You remember?
Exactly.
Okay. But the pilot did something that was wonderful. It was self-sacrifice.
Yes.
He didn't want to kill those kids. Okay, what do? He put the aircraft down. The big bird, he put it down into the mud, and that was the end. So there are pilots who are good. There are pilots who are careless. Because you could see some very dangerous clouds, for instance. You rise above the clouds in very difficult situations. But some pilots will tell you, oh, no problem, they'll go straight in. And anything can happen.
Wow.
Anything can happen.
Very reckless.
Reckless. I mean, you have reckless drivers, you have reckless pilots. Okay.
Well, let us now, just before we end the program, bring it down to the Nigerian situation. Lessons to learn from this disaster.
Yes. First of all, the nation will come together. That's what happened in India. Everybody came together in grief.
Yes.
Yes, it became a national disaster. I mean, there was no segregation or whatever. And another thing was, Prime Minister Modi responded quickly. He visited the crash site. He also visited the lone survivors. This lone survivor, because there was only one. Yes. Right. And let's see that picture again, where the Prime Minister was in contact with the lone survivor. There you could see the pact. Yes. This is what leaders should do. Exactly. For example. Yes. It was a
even from the screen, you can feel the touch with his follower.
Of course.
With his citizen.
Of course.
There's no distance.
No distance. That's what I was coming to. Exactly. No distance at all. That's leadership. And you could see the operations, the rescue operations, almost simultaneous, as if they knew that it was going to happen. In any case, that's the picture there. When an aircraft is taken up, is going up, you must have rescue missions all over the place. There are aircrafts in Nigeria, you know that they will skid up the runway, and they will just wait there. No fire brigade, nothing. They will just wait. Passengers will just be praying, "Oh, please God, come and help us." Nothing whatsoever.
We're going to discuss this. We're going to discuss this off camera. But I remember there was a time that a cow was found one of our runways.
Always. Yes, there's a cow. Yes, not just a cow, cows. They were moving along and they had to cross. I mean, that is dangerous, for instance. And in any case, as I said, it would not have been that disastrous if it was coming down, because it would have lost a lot of fuel. That's anyway. True. I mean, a journey that would take 10 hours, it would have lost some fuel. But in taking off from India, the fuel, look, the tanks were loaded. Fully loaded, because it had a non-stop flight.
And it was in flight for just 34
seconds. And that is why the ball of fire was that heavy. Look at it. The ball was heavy because it was a full load of fuel. Yes, for a big aircraft such as that, 250 capacity. But on this occasion, it was carrying 242. Yeah, full 41 died. But the casualty rate is still rising.
Yes, it is.
It's still rising because there were people on the ground who also died. Don't forget, he crashed into a building. There were medical students. As a matter of fact, let's show. I hope, Caleb, you can show us this. The casket that was, yes, that's it. A medical student was being carried in that casket who died instantly. He died instantly. Many more will have died in the hospital.
You know, like you said, the count, it keeps going.
It keeps going. Yes,
high, yeah,
particularly for those who are on ground.
Exactly, for those who are on ground.
Yeah, because those on board, they have become history.
Exactly.
But those on the ground.
That's true. There was a 15-year-old boy who was working with a cafe. Yeah, with a cafe. He just lost his life.
Oh, yes.
The mom and grandmom are inconsolable.
Oh,
seriously,
yes, that's
seriously
true.
Inconsolable.
That's true.
Well, like I said before we round up, let us look at the Nigerian situation. Is the Nigerian aviation sector ready for such a disaster if it does happen in Nigeria? We hope not.
We can't be pessimists on the program such as this.
Yeah, we hope not.
The Nigerian authorities must also learn from this.
Okay.
Our planes should not be falling off the skies.
Okay.
Yes. And you know, ironically, air flight is the safest.
Yes.
They will tell you it's the safest because you are sure that you take off, you get there, you want peace. But let me tell you this: pilots usually, once you have passengers on board, they call them souls. How many do you have? You have 25 souls on board or 50 souls on board. Because what that means is that you can never tell the eventuality.
Exactly.
And yet, ironically, it's the safest. Yes. A friend told me on this same day, he was traveling on 380, Boeing 380, across the Atlantic. Yes. And suddenly, because 90% he was coming from Europe, he was going to the US, 80-something% across the Atlantic. At a point in time, the aircraft went 20,000 down. Yes, wow. And everybody knew it. Big aircraft, 800 passengers, 800 plus. Some of them noticed it. Some who were sleeping did not. But he was quick enough. He was in the business class. He went to the pilots. Please, what's happening? Pilot said, no problem, we've taken care of it. The thing gained lift again, miraculously, and we're back in flight. Anything could just have happened, and we'll plunge into the Atlantic. Okay, with 800 people on board, usually over 800 people on board. So we pray that we don't experience such disasters. I've had my own fair share, and I pray I don't, such things don't happen again, because a lot of people have their different experiences, as far as the air flight is concerned, and you can only just hope for the best all the time. All the time.
Well, hope for the best all the time. The Nigerian aviation industry, they should also sit up, as the case may be.
But another thing I must add is that we must have equipment updated.
That's why I said the aviation
and upgraded.
Yes.
Regularly, because these things change.
Even personnel.
Even personnel.
Exactly.
We have had cases where people in Toronto Tower will slip off.
It is the truth. Yes, it is the truth.
I know what I'm talking about. Yes. Or they will just be chatting.
Yes.
Otherwise, how do you ask you clear the space for an aircraft that is taking off and one that is coming in?
Yes.
Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, really. So they must be alert all the time. All the alertness that will be put in must be in place, and fire equipment should be placed all over airports. Yes. This has got to do with our national standards, by the way.
That's true.
We don't take things for granted. No, we don't. An aircraft will skid off the runway
and be there
for
minutes waiting.
The people will be praying. On board, they will be praying, and suddenly some rescue will come, and they will come down one after the other. Whereas, as it's skipping off, you are there. You are there as a fire equipment to take care of situations in case there's any potential disaster. Exactly. Yeah, that's what happens by way of international standards.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program. Well, as you are a great viewer there, you would have known anytime I am with Dr. Gariba and we're having a discussion on set, it's like I should never ever leave. But the MCR seems to be a very big disturbance to me. He's been warning that there's another program coming up. So on this note, I want to say, please remember.
Well, the passing shot, you forgot to mention that. The passing shot today will be, let the world not experience another world war. Following what Israel has just done in Iran. 20 aircraft going at the same time to deliver missiles on Iran. That was an overkill, obviously. And I'm sure that the intention of Netanyahu is to wipe off Iran completely from the face of the earth. But I understand now that the Khomeini has escaped. He must be on his way to Russia. I only just hope that others will not now conspire in a very strong alliance against Israel. And in any case, the U.S. must always be on the side of Israel. But what of the other countries in the Arab world? They are siding with Russia, siding with China, siding with North Korea. These are nuclear powers. There's no doubt about it. And the nuclear weapons we have in the world now, in all directions, are enough to wipe off the whole planet 50 times over. This was what Reagan was saying when he was the president. There were two superpowers then, Russia and the United States, and established what we call MAD, mutually assured destruction. So they kept within their limits. I don't use mine, we can acquire, you don't use yours, because it would be mutually destroyed. But nuclear weapons are all over the place now. They're all over the place. And you can be sure that if care is not taken, it will be the beginning of another world war. Yes.
Well, the parting shot from the CEO, we are going to actually have a discussion. Yes, it's going to be a discussion, a continuous one, especially with these hostilities with Israel and some countries in the world, not just Israel, even Ukraine and Russia, they're having their issues. So we will definitely, by God's grace, very, very soon start off a discussion as regards that on one of our programs. And so on this note, I want to say once again, sir, thank you so much for coming to the studio.
Well, thank you very much. Again, we want to thank our viewers, growing in large numbers at home and abroad. We want to thank you very much, particularly those in Europe, the US, Canada. And we are beginning to have many viewers in Australia, down on the end of the earth. Yes, New Zealand, exactly, for instance. Yes. We are beginning to have them. So we don't want to pound our chest, but we'll do it all the same as the Game Changer.
We'll definitely always do it as a Game Changer. Please remember to tell your friends and family about Providence Television International. Thanks for watching. Please stay tuned.